Car dealerships are completely out of control, and there are huge discrepancies between what people pay for their trucks and SUVs. In fact, the truck and SUV market is finally collapsing, and two people who buy the same exact vehicle might pay up to a $10,000 difference. That's just going between different dealers within the same town or between towns. So that 150-mile drive to a neighboring town might just be worth 10 grand more in your pocket. And the people who used to be able to buy a brand new vehicle every so often, which on average was actually every 6 years, most of them no longer can. And no, this isn't even about the rising cost of living, stagnant wages, or crazy high interest rates. This is about how expensive vehicles have become even on their MSRP from the manufacturer, and about how well dealership transparency is, or lack thereof. Keep in mind though that averages can often be very misleading. For example, the average truck sold for 2023 was $66,000. The average full-size car sold for $49,000, which is conveniently about the same number as the average vehicle as a whole. The median numbers are probably a little bit lower than that, as sometimes the averages are skewed high, but that's astronomical, especially when in a state like this, in this 50,000 populated town in Idaho, the average household income is about $70,000. So some people are literally buying a pickup truck, a base Silverado or F-150 that is basically the average of what their whole household earned in a whole year's time. But overall, my main purpose in making this video for you guys is so that you can see what an honest car dealership looks like. I've been to over a dozen this month alone between a few different towns, and there's a lot of lack of transparency at most of the dealerships. A lot that don't offer the year, the make, the model, the price, the mileage, all the specs and knowledge that you might want to see just driving through the car dealership. You have to get out and talk to someone. They might either block off the parking lot so you can't just drive in on your own or drive in when they're closed. They might have the stickers on the side where you actually have to walk between vehicles and their salesman can catch you more easily. So there's a lot of things you may notice between this dealership and other things that I'm going to be overlaying on the screen that are less transparent, less honest, and quite frankly, the dealerships that will never have my business. And if you guys have noticed anything similar or anything different in your part of the country where you're currently at, please comment that below so myself and other people can learn from your experiences and learn what other demographic areas are like. There are a lot of dealerships that have a bad rap, have a bad reputation, and for good reason. This is not one of them though. So even though this is kind of out of context, we don't know all the specs of these makes and models. We don't know their Carfax, their history, how well they were maintained. A lot of these vehicles have prices, asking prices that, at least for myself, they don't strike me as unusual. Nothing that I shake my head at and instantly walk away. But prices that actually make sense. Prices that seem like what used cars used to be before COVID, before the pandemic. And it's nice to find transparency. Even this Ford Fiesta ST, something that's not often seen, for under $15,000. And don't worry if you're waiting to see the trucks and SUVs. I'm going to show you guys those very soon. But look, some of these even show what they're approved for financing costs. 1.9%. This is a lease, it looks like, for just under $500. That one doesn't have the MSRP, but I think these over here do. Yeah, so under 2% financing, and you can see even for a 2024 model year, which it's not quite 2024 yet, and some of these are being sold for up to about $1,000 below sticker in some cases. Sometimes a little bit more depending on the vehicle. But there are good deals that you can find out here, and you'd expect that if there's any 2023 model years, they're going to be even cheaper, a bigger discount. You'd be surprised if you haven't gone to car lots lately, how many dealerships don't advertise any sort of window sticker discounts or their financing or anything like that. Here specifically is a Forester Wilderness. It's a 23, so as I mentioned, slightly bigger discount, about $2 grand off the initial price if you want to buy it rather than lease it. But you're getting options. You're getting a lot of transparency, and I'm sure there's always some more room to negotiate as well. I think it's time to show you guys the truck, so I'm gonna head over to the Chevy truck dealer that's just sitting next door. But because an automobile is likely the second biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life, if you are someone who wants to purchase a mortgage or a house at some point, depending on what part of the country you're in, if you're not living in a city apartment or city condo or something like that, you want to know what you're getting in for. You don't want to be surprised. You don't want to be fleeced or swindled in the finance office with all these nonsense add-ons that cost probably about 3 or 4 times what they actually would MSRP for, or if you were to buy them on your own. For example, a hockey puck lift, wheel, and tire package from, say, the local Toyota dealership, they're often asking over $5 grand for something like that. Meanwhile, the hockey puck lift in the front with the shocks in the back is like a $300 package. If you can do that cheaper, do it yourself, and then trade or sell your factory wheels and tires, you know, you could do the same lift, wheel, and tire package yourself for probably $1,500 easily. So you need to be an informed buyer. You need to know what you're getting into. I understand that salesmen need to make a living and that it can be an admirable profession, but there are a lot of people who get hired off the streets at various car dealerships who their only focus is to make as much money as possible, and they do that by making you spend as much money as possible. And here is our first Chevy truck of the day that's being filmed live, and it's a Trail Boss Colorado. It's a 2023. It looks like they're asking about $46 for it over here, and MSRP $47.5. So they are asking about $1,000 off. I understand why it's not more. These are still really hard to come by. In fact, this is the first one of these I think I've seen at a dealership, and I've only seen a couple in the wild before. But let's look at some more used trucks, and then I'll show you some new trucks, and you guys comment below if you think that these prices are out of touch with reality. It looks like it has 162,000 miles for just under 13 grand, but that actually looks like one of the cleanest Rangers I've seen of this older generation. And I'll let you guys just take a look at what the window stickers are for these brand new 2024s. As you'd expect, there's not going to be as big of a discount as some of the 2023 model years, which these dealerships right here are actually basically the highest volume dealerships in this town. So they do really sell through a lot of their inventory pretty quick. It is a pretty big dealership lot. It's fairly full. They could always pack them a little bit closer, but this dealership does sell, or at least Subaru sells sometimes up to 80 cars in a month, which for a town of this size, that's a pretty busy moving dealership. But what I have noticed going between those dozen or so dealerships is the local dealership, say for Toyotas, the only discounts I really found were on 4Runners, up to about $2,000 or $2,500 off of the basically year-old model now, the 2023s, which, I mean, they're gonna have to do better than that, especially when a bigger dealership 100 miles away, they offered about $5,500 off the average 2023 and about $3,500 off the average 2024, which, keep in mind, that does even out pretty well, because for 2024 the 4Runner did jump up in price like $1,000 MSRP. And I didn't really notice discounts on Toyotas, Tundras, or Sequoias anywhere that I've looked. But also the local Ford dealer. I just posted a video about that recently, and their best discounts are up to $1,500 of rebate, which is absolutely pathetic, especially when Google tells me that it only takes about 2/3 of an MSRP to actually pay for the materials and the labor of a vehicle. So that's why sometimes truck manufacturers can offer 10 grand off, 12 grand off, and you know they're still making money, because if it's a $70,000 truck, it could have cost as little as about $45,000 or $50,000 to build. And that's being generous towards the manufacturer and towards the margins that they need to make to stay in business, because that's what it is at the end of the day. And don't even get me started on those $75,000 used year-old Yukons from the GMC dealership I was at just recently. I say all this to share that if now is even a good time for you personally to consider buying a vehicle, do your homework, because prices are all over the place, and there's not a lot of transparency at many dealerships, because when there's a lack of transparency, it's easier to miss where the money's going, and it's easier to overpay for some of the vehicles that you might be considering. So check out the social media forums, see what other people are paying, what the current markets are like. When a vehicle is near the end of its generation or the end of the year, you can usually expect to see a pretty big discount. Trucks seem to have the biggest discounts. Again, you can sometimes, even I found about 10 grand off of a lot of the F-150s in a bigger community of maybe a 6 times larger population than what this area has to offer. And there were a lot of F-150s there that could be priced in the mid-40s to mid-$50,000 ballpark. Meanwhile, the local Ford dealer in this town, $1,500 off was the best they could do, meaning I don't think I found a single F-150 that was below 60 grand. And that's for like a basically base model XLT with a couple overpriced options on it. So know what you're getting into, do your homework. You can always call dealerships or email them to see what their bottom dollar price is. And when you do that, you can also learn how willing or unwilling they are to work with you, how much they seem to value your business, and knowing that they're making thousands of dollars selling your vehicles, it's adding statistics to their dealership, making them look good for everything that they have to report to for being a higher volume dealership. There's a lot that should go into it, and you should be able to see how willing they are to make the deal happen for you. As long as you're being reasonable, of course. This isn't blaming the dealerships. This isn't blaming just the manufacturers. This is a problem, and it's getting out of hand. And if this video is helpful or insightful to you guys in any way, if you got any sort of benefit out of it, that was my whole intention. But also, if you don't mind, please consider liking the video, help it to get spread, help it to get shared. Subscribe if you haven't. I usually post a couple car reviews a week, and I'll do more dealership walks if you want to see more stuff like this. If you want to see what car inventory looks like in more and more towns, I'll gladly do that for you guys. But you have to comment below so that I know what you actually want to see. And until next time, take care.